This is an urgent appeal from the Disasters Emergency Committee. Hundreds of thousands of people have fled their homes to escape conflict in Ukraine, leaving jobs, belongings and loved ones behind. They need shelter, food and water. You can help. To donate online, search DEC or text radio to 70150 to give £10. Thank you.
Streaming 24/7, this is Brum Radio.
Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
I'm actually joined online by Alex Cardall, who is in the Osmonds tour, which is coming to Birmingham from the 25th until the 29th of October, and it's coming to the Alexandra Theatre. Good afternoon, Alex. How are you doing?
Afternoon, Dave. I'm all right, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today about the Osmonds production. How long have you been in this tour for?
We've been touring since the beginning of the year, since January. We started in Leicester, the beginning of February. We started in Leicester, and we've been going right the way until now, until October. So it's been a long old tour, but we're absolutely loving it.
And what's the longest sort of time that you're in a place? Is it mostly for a week that you're doing?
It's only ever a week. We do as a weekly touring venue, so we usually do Tuesday to Saturday, usually about 8 shows a week, and then we move on either the Sunday or the Monday, and then get into the new theatre on the Tuesday. So by the time you've finished seeing a wonderful city, you've already left, and it's like, I was quite enjoying my time in High Wycombe. We've moved on. It's a really wicked experience. I think getting to see all of the UK in the year. And sharing this wonderful musical with the Osmonds fans it's a blessing. Loving it.
And it says on the website that you've been playing Andy Williams.
That's right.
How has that been as a process of playing a real person?
Well, I think with anyone really in the show, we're trying to essentially show the Osmonds life as accurately as possible. And Andy Williams was luckily enough, I knew quite a bit about him before the time I'd auditioned for him in the first place. He's one of my dad's favourite singers. So that was a blessing to be able to play one of my all-time, favourite crooners, I think you kind of want to recreate the essence of what that person was and who he was to the Osmonds, especially. And it's just, it's very rare you get to play a real person in a musical, or at least originate that person in an original musical. It's a real blessing, and I just count my blessings every day. I'll go on and perform that part, to be honest. It's brilliant.
Jay Osmond, who wrote this story, he obviously would have known Andy Williams. He would have known him pretty well at some point. Did you get to ask him about Andy Williams, or was there an element of you relying on your knowledge already?
Yeah, a bit of both, to be honest, Dave. I think you're right. He had that famous moment, you can check it out on YouTube actually, where Jay notices the red light in the 60s, where the barbershop quartet, they must have been about kind of 7 or 8 years old, maybe even younger at that point, where the Osmond brothers are on the Andy Williams show, and Jay Osmond sees the big red light and just is following where the camera's looking, and none of the other Osmond boys are doing it, and it's only Jay that's doing it. And so it's really it's a real blast to have him, as through his eyes, be able to tell this story. And he tells amazing anecdotes about Andy Williams, and just that he was a very kind of lovable, fun, smiley man. And you wouldn't get that unless you'd met that person. You'd obviously get facts and, reading Moon River and Me and all of his kind of autobiography and telling anecdotes and that sort of thing. But to actually get someone's essence of that character is pretty amazing. So it's really, really brilliant.
I sent one of my reviewers, Julie, to come and see the Osmonds in Wolverhampton previously in the spring, and when I sent her along, her review was basically a love letter to the Osmonds as well as the show. She'd named her guinea pigs after the Osmonds, so she'd got like a Jay guinea pig and a Donny guinea pig in her childhood. And when I'd sent her along to see it, it was a love letter that she wrote back when she'd written the review. Is it interesting that that's the type of connection that people have with the Osmonds as a group, and therefore as the Osmonds as a show?
I think it is. I think it's interesting to see, and it's amazing to see people's responses. I guess it's kind of like having Harry Styles the musical in about 30, 40 years time, having that that kind of nostalgia, and especially after the pandemic, I think people just want a great night out of the theatre and to kind of reminisce and enjoy their time out. But what a better way to do it with a band that they knew and loved and cherished so dearly, because I kind of feel like they are a band that haven't really had their spotlight, particularly in musical theatre, and kind of been shown as, as there was one point where they were bigger than the Beatles and Elvis. And they had such amazing songs, but I don't really kind of feel like they've had their real moment, other than, songs like Puppy Love and Love Me for a Reason. I sort of feel like their music, particularly for my generation and growing up with my parents, there was very rare that they played any Osmonds music. But I guess that really depends on the type of family that you grow up with, really. But it was mainly kind of swing and big band music that I grew up with. But I guess, like, from my perspective, looking out there and seeing the crowd go absolutely crazy every night, and again, like reminiscing and enjoying the time out at the theatre, it's very special to be able to do that and to give that performance every night and to get that back from the crowd. It's wonderful.
I think of Crazy Horses. That's when I think of the Osmonds myself, and it's probably
that's the big number. Yeah. That's
it might be either my generation or the impact on my generation for the Osmonds that is sort of my go-to. But I'm sure generations before and after me, they might think of Puppy Love or Long Haired Lover or those sorts of songs. Whereas Crazy Horses, you can't go and do Crazy Horses at X Factor as like the setup song.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it?
It's a bit difficult. Whereas something like Puppy Love, you could do on Britain's Got Talent, and it's got that kind of friendly style to it. I guess that's why.
Yeah, that's true.
The tour goes on until December. It goes on until December the 3rd. Are you allowed to tell us what you're going to be doing after that?
I mean, there's obviously loads of hope with this show, depending on where it goes. Not kind of allowed to say as of yet, but to be honest, we don't really know either, to be honest with you. But no, over Christmas, I'm going to be, I either do a pantomime or tend to do my own music. And that I'm doing that this year. I'm basically doing a lot of jazz singing and crooning, and I've got my jazz trio, and we'll go up and down the country basically just doing music for the Christmas season. So that's my plan. And then it would just be nice to be just in one place for more than a week. Do you know what I mean? I think over Christmas especially, that'll be a really nice time. So I'll get back and see my family in Birmingham, and then eventually move back to London and start auditioning again.
And are you based in London in general with your family up in?
Yes. No. So my mum's in Solihull, but my partner's in London. Yeah. So I'll get back there in the new year for sure. That'd be lovely.
Fantastic. And has London been since the pandemic? Is it quite different to be London based at this point?
Yeah, it really is. I think I spent my entire lockdown in Solihull with my family, and then it was out of choice to move down to London again. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a job opportunity. It was just I need to get back to auditioning and back to work. So sort of midway through 2021 decided to move down. I mean, I was a courier driver for quite a lot of the pandemic. I did newspaper rounds. I was a teacher on Zoom. I'd worked for a Scottish theatre company online, and I just had to the point where I was like, right, I'd quite like to get back to acting. And then I moved back down to London and started working at Kew Gardens. I did Wind in the Willows there, an outdoor theatre experience for kids. Mm-hmm. And then I did a pantomime in Chipping Norton, and then, basically just fell straight into the Osmonds in this year. So, I guess I kind of moved down to London, did that period of time over summer in Kew Gardens, and then just went to Chipping Norton, now on tour again. It'll be nice to actually settle in London, I think, and just have that period of time.
I feel like London doesn't feel as far as it did when I was a kid. I always felt like London was quite a distance away to go to, particularly for someone in your industry. You would have had to go to London, but there's still a bit more flexibility these days.
I think you're right, and especially with sort of, I guess, energy and living prices going up. I think a lot of my friends are choosing to live outside of London, and actually that be a more viable option. I mean, with the travel journeys getting shorter and shorter, but then again, you never know whether there's going to be a train. But I do think that there are easier options of getting to and from London. I don't really feel like you have to live kind of in the centre just to make sure that you're available for auditions. I think it's good to be there, to be available when auditions come up for the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning. If you're up in Glasgow or Edinburgh, it's very difficult to commute that. But I do think that there are viable options. So I mean, I'm already thinking about where I might want to move. I do love London. I love the hustle and bustle and the vibe and what the theatre industry offers. But I think growing up in quite a rural area in my childhood, I'd quite like to move somewhere like that in the next couple of years. But I'm not placing any bets on where that might be. But as long as it's accessible to getting into the centre of London, then happy days.
It's a brilliant thing that we can now commute around a little bit more than we were doing. I was very much sat on my sofa for 18 months. Doing my work from my laptop without being able to go anywhere. And so being in front of being in an audience, doing theatre reviews is such a wonderful thing to be able to get back into doing as well. Do you have a favourite theatre outside of the Midlands area that when you were performing at it, you were like, I'd like to come back to this theatre and perform?
Yeah, I mean, I've mainly done regional theatre since I graduated from drama school in 2018. I think my all-time favourite job, and I always thought this when I did it, and this is the first job I ever did, and I thought it can't get better than this, can it? And I don't really believe it can. It was the Watermill Theatre in Newbury, and I did an actor-musician version of Sweet Charity. Yes. And it was just amazing. I played the drums, I climbed down a ladder from up above and did the scenes with Gemma Sutton, who played Charity. Got to play Oscar Lindquist, one of my all-time favourite characters in any musical play, as my first job out of drama school. And I thought, can't get better than this, can it? And I really hit the jackpot straight away, to be honest. Another one is the Royal and Derngate in Northampton. They're a wonderful theatre. They do some really good kind of community work, and they've got some wonderful in-house productions. That's where we did the majority of our run of The Season, which was a two-hander musical that I did in 2019. But yeah, primarily those two theatres I'd say are my all-time favourites, the ones that I've performed at least. And I think there's some beautiful theatres outside of London that are now being really well showcased, because people are moving out into the country more. They're getting out to see theatre more kind of vastly rather than going to London. And I think there's a much more kind of universal conversation of where they want to go for theatre productions. And I think those two places in particular, the Watermill and the Royal and Derngate, just do such brilliant work. And I think even not being a part of it, going to watch it is really special. So yeah, I do think there's a lot more kind of theatre out there, yeah, for sure.
That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Alex. That's really wonderful. We are going to be able to see the Osmonds on tour in Birmingham at the Alexandra from the 25th until the 29th of October. It's then touring currently until the 3rd of December. Go to the osmondsmusical.co.uk, or you can go to the website for the Alexandra, which is ATG Tickets. Go to the what's on there and then look for Birmingham and the Alexandra there. That will have the details of the Osmonds coming there for the 25th to the 29th of October. Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to chat about this today.
Smashing. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.